Shalom. You are standing in front of the monument commemorating the Lehi movement and its fallen members who sacrificed their lives in the struggle to establish the State of Israel. Towards the end of the First World War in 1917, Great Britain took control of the land of Israel, known at the time as Palestine. The League of Nations later gave Britain a mandate to rule the area on condition that it would assist the Jewish people in establishing its own state. But as the years passed, Britain changed its policy. The British authorities failed to protect the Jewish community when Arabs attacked. They placed restrictions on the immigration of Jews and on their rights to purchase land. On the eve of the Second World War, hundreds of thousands of Jews tried desperately to escape from Europe, only to find the gates of their homeland locked. Avraham Stern, known as Yair, was the senior commander of the Irgun, which in Hebrew is called the Etzel. Yair argued that the British had to be forced out of the country. He defined them as an enemy and their regime as a foreign occupier. When the leadership of the Jewish community in Eretz Israel, including the Haganah and the Irgun, decided to have their members enlist in the British Army to help defeat the Germans, a large group of Etzel members, led by Yair, left the organization. They established a new underground movement called the Etzel in Israel. Later, its name was changed to Lehi, an acronym for Fighters for the Freedom of Israel. Life in the underground was difficult. Its members were ostracized by the Jewish community and hunted by the British police. Some of Lehi's members broke under the social pressure and persecution and abandoned the struggle or returned to the Etzel. Most of those who remained were captured and imprisoned in jails or detention camps. Others were shot by the British secret police. On February 12, 1942, British detectives located Yair in his hideout, handcuffed him, and murdered him in cold blood. The horror of this period is described in a song written by Yair 10 years earlier that became the anthem of the Lehi movement. Soldiers without names or uniforms are we, surrounded by terror and death. For the rest of our lives we are enlistees, discharged from the ranks with our last breath. A few months after the murder of Yair, Yitzhak Shamir, who would later become the Prime Minister of Israel, escaped from a detention camp. He was followed by 20 other Lehi members who escaped from the Latrun detention camp. They crawled out through a 76-meter tunnel it had taken them 9 months to dig. Shamir reorganized Lehi, and from then on it was led by a 3-member committee: Yitzhak Shamir, Yisrael Eldad, and Natan Yalin Mor. Lehi renewed its activities with a vengeance. It assassinated officers of the British secret police and tried to assassinate the High Commissioner of Palestine, Harold McMichael, who was wounded in the attempt. In November 1944 in Cairo, 2 Lehi members assassinated Lord Moyne, the British minister resident in the Middle East. Moyne was the highest-ranking British official in the region and considered one of those responsible for the policy of closing the gates of Palestine to Jewish immigration. The assassins, Eliyahu Hakim and Eliyahu Beit Suri, were caught, and after a trial that made headlines around the world, they were hanged in Cairo. On red days of blood and atrocities, on black nights dark with despair, we'll raise our flag in the towns and the cities. On that flag, Defend and Conquer will appear. Following the end of World War II, the 3 Jewish paramilitary organizations, the Haganah, the Irgun, and Lehi, united to form the Jewish Resistance Movement. Lehi carried out many operations against the British within this movement and continued even after it ceased function. One of the Lehi's important operations was an attack on the airfield near Kfar Sirkin. Lehi demolished 8 British Spitfire aircraft. In Haifa, Lehi attacked the British railroad workshops and blew up its facilities. In this operation, 11 Lehi fighters were killed and 23 captured. Of these, 19 men were sentenced to death. But the British, fearing Lehi's revenge, reduced their sentences to life in prison. 4 women fighters who were captured were sentenced to imprisonment in the Bethlehem prison. Another of Lehi's important operations was executed by a small team of fighters in Haifa, who broke into the oil refineries and blew up its oil tanks and tens of thousands of tons of fuel. These operations and many others speeded up the process of the British departure from the country. Lehi continued fighting, launching hundreds of attacks against the British until they finally left. When the State of Israel was established in May 1948, Lehi was dismantled, and its members joined the newly created Israel Defense Forces, taking an active role in the War of Independence. On this monument, created by the sculptor Ayelet Bitan Shlonsky, are inscribed the names of 127 Lehi fighters who fell during the battle against the British and in the War of Independence. May their memory be blessed.